Hello, it is 570 week number 3. All right, starting it in the groove of things. I hope so, because it's week 3. So this week, a little throwback to 501, mashing it up with some of the reflective practices you've been learning. Reflective practices? Practices? That's too many practices. I don't know. Let's just go through our week. We'll get kind of step at a time. You're going to be doing some reading around how EFL teachers integrated TPAC through reflective practice. So let's break that down because that's a lot of acronyms. I know educators love acronyms, but that is a lot of acronyms. So EFL is English as a foreign language. So in most schools in America, English is the primary language, and so when you have language arts class or English class, that's what we did most. I'm assuming what you did as well with learning to read and write and kind of the generic language arts stuff. In other countries, though, if you're teaching English, that's English as a foreign language, and so there's a couple different permutations of this, and you'll see in the as you go through the readings, it can be native English speakers in a language or in a non-English speaking country learning English, or it could be English kind of as a second language, but that's usually ESL. So it's really, it tends to be you're learning English, but you're learning it in a country where English is not the primary language. Kind of makes sense? You'll see, you'll read it, it'll make lots of sense. So when you see EFL, that's what that is. And then as we look at the TPAC, that's that really cool Venn diagram where you look at technology, pedagogy, and content knowledge. So the technology knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, and content knowledge, and how that intersects. I'm trying to do that with I don't have 3 hands. So you're going to look at how these EFL teachers enhance their TPAC competencies using reflective practice. It's basically like, here's what they did, you're going to do your own version of it. You're going to read that, you're going to use that in a couple ways. You're going to do your weekly reflection on Flipgrid, on Microsoft Flip, call it what you will. Make sure you're doing that each and every week. And then you're also going to take kind of some of those rememberings of TPAC, and that's going to be applied into your assignment number 2, your personalized reflective practice implementation plan. Whew, mouthful. So your personalized reflective practice implementation plan is where you're going to find your approach from the first assignment. Right? It was called your personalized reflective practice approach. You're going to take that, you're going to look at the TPAC materials in the reading we just talked about, and also you can go back and look at 501, and then you're going to look at your current classroom practice, and thinking about those other 2 pieces, you're going to pick a new piece of technology you've not used and integrate it into a lesson plan, a 1 or a 2 day lesson. There's details, there's a template for you in the Google Doc. Lots of ways you could go with this. The things that I'm seeing at my school and kind of with other ed tech educators I know, obviously top of mind, you're going to guess what I'm going to say, AI and education. So if you've not done anything with generative AI, this could be an interesting way to do that in a lesson though. So a cool on-ramp, if you've not used this by yourself or with students, is to actually, instead of give an assignment to your students for writing, give the assignment directions to, let's just say, ChatGPT. Be specific with what you're looking for, share a rubric if there is one, have ChatGPT knock out that 5-paragraph essay or whatever the assignment is, and then as a class, you actually critique that, almost like you're doing, peer review. One of my favorite presentations I've ever given was actually around writing and editing writing. It was giving feedback in real time in Google Docs. And so at the time I was teaching 2nd grade. And so I paired with, actually in Irvine, if any of you are in Irvine, Scott Bedley's an amazing teacher, teaches 5th grade. And he wanted his students to practice reading and editing and giving feedback. And so my 2nd graders wrote in Google Docs, which was quite a feat for them. and then Scott's fifth graders gave feedback on them. We did it two different ways. We did it asynchronously, where they did it on Monday and got feedback by Friday. And then we also did it actually in real time, where as they wrote their first sentence, a fifth grader 60 miles away is highlighting, annotating, commenting, helping with punctuation, giving feedback on topic sentences, all kinds of stuff. And then we went one level above. Sean Zebarth in Huntington Beach, he didn't care about his students writing. He cared about their editing. And so for him, it was all about like, how do you go from draft 1 to draft 2? How do you go from draft 5 to draft 6? So clearly he cares about writing. But it wasn't like the first draft, which is where most of the writing instruction I got was do your first draft, polish it up and submit it. He cared about like keep leveling up those drafts, and so he just wanted students to get some writing and give feedback on it. And so Scott's fifth graders also shared in Google Docs with Sean's mostly 11th grade English class, and they were giving feedback to those fifth graders. And that's the kind of thing where depending on where you are, what district you're in, what school you're at, Scott typically has like 35 students, so to give them feedback takes hours on writing. But by pairing them up with just one of Sean's classes, right, because Scott had the same kids all day long, Sean gets like 5 different classes, just one of Sean's classes in real time could actually provide individualized feedback to Scott's fifth graders, which was incredible. The technologies has been here for 10 or 15 years with Google Docs. We just need to connect with people. So it's kind of those ideas, but instead of having to figure out like, where's a class I can connect with to give me some feedback, or where can my students give feedback, you can just do the same sort of idea, but with generative AI text, like with ChatGPT. Here's your assignment, ChatGPT, here's the rubric, go. Got the assignment, all right, let's look at this. What works, what doesn't? How does this feel generic and lame? What parts can we improve? So something like that could be an example if you're not sure where to start with generative AI. One of my favorite lessons I have done around generative AI was with images, where we picked like a pretty heavy topic in the world, and I worked with a group of fifth graders in a design class, which was an elective, to create a piece of AI art. And so one looked at global warming and came up with an image, and it took us an hour to get through this, right? Because the prompt you give, we ended up using Midjourney, which does text to image. You give a description, and then it gives you an image. It actually gives you 4, and then you can choose between those 4 which one you want versions of. So I like version 3, then you get 4 of those. I like version 2 of that, and then you get 4. So you kind of get this decision tree until you start to get a pretty specific piece of imagery. In our case, I really feel like it was art. And it was a chance to kind of symbolically represent these big things. We looked at global warming, what's it like to live in the US in an era of global warming. And the other one, these were students selected, was around racism in America. And that was it's a big topic, it's a heavy topic. It's one that is complicated to talk about. But if you're just trying to create a piece of art to kind of capture some kind of emotions or symbolism around that, I found that was actually a really powerful way to kind of sort through all of that. And so we actually took both of those images, and then I created one myself using Midjourney. Those around one particular school shooting, and all 3 of those were actually in a museum at the ISTE conference this past June, which was pretty cool. They had a whole like big conference style, like a massive conference room dedicated to the ISTE Museum. So for a full week, those 3 images were really big too. Like we figured out how to upscale them and get them to be like 24 inches square. And so, if you're looking at it, you're like, wow, that's amazing. There's a lot of AI imagery for your use. So if any of those sound kind of cool, you can go down that rabbit hole. If you want to play with just using Microsoft Flip with your students, and you've not done that before, you've been doing it as a student now, do it with your students. One thing my sixth grader loves is Gimkit. That's it's a gamified quiz. So instead of just like Kahoot or quizzes that have been around for a while, it's you end up getting points or energy by answering questions, and then you can use that energy towards a thing. So like there's capture the flag, and so you have to answer a bunch of questions, and every step you take uses some of that energy. So the more questions you get right, the more you can move, the more you can capture the flag. There's ones where you answer questions, you get bait, and you go fishing, and you can like upgrade your rod. You can upgrade the amount of money you get per fish. It's a lot of fun. We actually play it over the weekend a lot. So if you've not played Gimkit, Gimkit, that might be something you want to try with your students. Lots of, hundreds of examples. Canva for Education also comes to mind if you've not played with that or given students assignments in Canva for Education. Canva also has some generative AI imagery built into it. They call it Magic Blank. So if you ever see Magic something in Canva, then that's going to be using AI to help create the thing. So with that, pick one. It could be, hundreds, if not thousands, of other tools that you want. Think about those in terms of TPAC for your framing, and then you're going to come up with your personalized reflective practice implementation plan. There's a template for you, and then you're going to share that with me. You're going to download that as a PDF. There's a tutorial for you on the Google Doc. Make sure you're looking through the rubric as you go through your assignment. The last thing in week 3 is your discussion board. As always, your initial post is due Thursday. Final peer responses are due Sunday. You are going to share your personalized reflective practice approach that you created for assignment 1. So the approach in assignment 1, you're going to share that in the discussion board and then give feedback. So it's a pretty straightforward one. That's all you've got for week 3. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out. If not, looking forward to what you share both on Flip and the discussion board. And yeah, I'm excited to see what you're going to pick for your new tool and how you're going to end up using it as you implement it in weeks 4, and then you end up kind of running with it, right? You can see where we're starting to kind of go forward, how you're going to be implementing it, and then the following week, and then reflect on it using reflective practice best practices. Too many practices again. Anyway, reach out with any questions, and happy week 3, everybody.